Hello friends, this is tutorial number 57 in this C++ programming language tutorials. In this tutorial we will create some interesting application. We already created it in Java and Turbo Pascal, and of course we will create it in the C++. It will be a player's game. We will create an object of a player, and we will create each player will have just one field score. And we will create 10 players and put them into the static vector of players. And we will have a game. We will need to enter the number. And now, depending how that number ends, if we type, for example, 6, 26, 56, player 6 will win the point. If we type 8 or 38, minus 58, if that number ends with 8, player 8 will win the point. If we type 0, 20, 30, 50, 100, 200, player 10 will win the point. It depends. That number ends with, if ends with 1, player 1 will get the point. If it ends with number 2, player 2 will win the point. And of course we will, if ends with 0, player 10 will win the point. We will have just 10 players, and let's do it. First let's create a class. The name of the class will be player, and we will not need destructor. Let's create the class. Okay, here it is. And let me see. We have player, a class of player, and we have player CPP. Now let's use this IO stream and standard namespace. Let's copy and let's paste it into the CPP. Player.cpp. Okay, that's good. And this standard namespace we can copy this and paste it to our class of player. Okay, we will paste it here, and in our main function we need to include class of player. Okay, that's result. Now let's create a couple of fields. Okay, here protected we will not need, and we will create just one private field. It will be integer, and it will be a score. And in we will have one parameterized constructor, and inside it will have integer a. And let's create, we will need two functions. We need two public functions. It will be an integer, and it will be set score and get score. It will be getter and setter and getter. Let's create int set score, and inside it will have integer a. This is just a local variable. And let's create another public function. It will be get score. And now let's go to player CPP to define our constructor. Okay, inside we will have integer a, and score will be equals to this local variable a. Okay, we define our constructor, and now let's define functions that we created. First let's type integer player set score, and inside we will have integer a, and we'll type again score will be equals to A and return score. And now let's define getScore function, player, and we have, but instead it will not be, sometimes code blocks can load it, the function that we create. Let's write it manually. It will be getScore and it will be return score. Okay, this is good. And now let's go to our main function. And first thing that we need to do, we will need to include vector. Include vector. And here below standard namespace, we need to create a static vector of player, and we will call it players. Our static vector is created. And now we will need to create a function that will create 10 players. It will be a void function. We will call the function create players. And inside we will have one local variable integer, x will be equals to 0. And let us create a while loop. And it depends now how many players we want. We want 10 players. Okay, and we will write if while x is lesser than 10, because we will have 10 players, we will write, now we can create a player, object player P, and inside this class of player we need in the constructor we have as a parameter we have one integer, and all of the players will start the game with 0 point, of course, and it will be player P, and score will be a 0. Okay, and we created our player, and now we need to put this player P into this static vector of players, and we will do that. Players dot pushback our player P, and we need to, because this is a while loop, we need to increment x, and this means that this while loop will create 10 times, it will create a player, and that player, it will be a 10 players, it will be we will put that 10 players in this static vector of players, and with this while loop players are created. And now what we need to create another function. It will be a void function, and it will be a game. But before creating this function, we will call this function create players into the main. And now let's define this void function on game. We will need a couple of variables. We will need integer x, and we will need entry. Entry, it is the number that we will enter, and we will need integer also score, local variable score. These all are local variables, and here we can define x equals to 0. And now we will need to input numbers. And first we will need, for that we will input the numbers, but it now depends. If we, I already explain you, if we type, for example, number 1, 21, 31, player 1 will win the point, but we will entering the numbers, and we need to stop. We can stop, for example, when we enter -1. And let's write, we can use do while, and also we can use a while loop. Let's use while loop. While, but how we will gonna do this? This number that we will enter is entry, and we will write while entry not equals to -1. When we enter -1, the loop will stop. And now inside this while loop, we will need to write if statement. And this will be if entry not equals to -1, it means that if entry is not equals to -1, because when we enter -1, players will not, loop will stop. Player 1 will not get a point, and we will write. But first we need to write cout before this if statement. Enter the number. And we will input entry. And now if entry not equals to -1, and as I already told you, if for example we are typing 158, for example, player 8 need to win a point. And how we gonna do that? Simple way, entry will be equals to entry mod 10. I already show you what mod operator is. For example, if we have mod 10, it means that it will start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and when it comes to 10, it will not count 10. It will start again from number 0, and pretty much simple. But we also can input negative numbers. Okay, if we enter -1, a loop will stop. But if we enter -5, for example, player 5 will need to win the point. But we need to redefine entry. We need to use absolute value. And to use absolute value, we need to include cmet library. and let's redefine again. Entry will be equals to ABS, its absolute value, and let's use entry. And now we need to define a variable. We define entry, and now we will need to define a score. How we will define score? Okay, it will be pretty simple. We will not use score will be equals to players of element entry. Okay, entry will be equals to entry mod 10, and entry can be from 0 to 9, and we have in the vector of players we have 10 players, and their numbers are 10 elements. They are from 0 to 9, and also our entry can be from 0 to 9, and it will be equals player of element entry dot and get score. And now we have a score. For example, if entry is 3, and for example score will be the score of the player 3. But if we have player 3, number 3, player 3 needs to get to get 1 point. And now we need to redefine the score. Players of element entry, we need to use a set score, and we will write score plus 1 because he will get a point. That's pretty much simple, and we will need to write a statement for that. But how we will gonna do that? First, but we will have one problem. We have elements from 0 to 9. Okay, it will be player 0, but we don't want player 0. We want player 10. And now here we, for example, if we have 0 players of element 0, set score will get a point. But before we writing a text which player will get a point, we need to write if statement. If entry equals to 0, because it is we doing this because I don't want to have player 0. Entry will be equals to 10. Just in case if entry is 0, we will redefine it as 10, and we need to write a statement cout. It will be player entry and we can write has won the point. And we can use new line. Just to separate that from another text. And this will be good. But now we also will have here else statement. Okay, this is if entry not equals to -1. And let's create else statement. If that will be if entry is -1. we will just display all of the players, and we need to do it. We need to use a while loop. We already have a local variable x, which is 0. Let's create while loop. While, just a second, while x is lesser, but we can use 10, but we don't need to use now. We can use is lesser. We already have our static vector of players. Lesser than players dot size, and let's write. We need to write the score of all players. We will write player and we need a number. We will need a number x, but it will be a problem if we use x. Our first element will be 0, and before this we can just write if x equals to 0. Okay, now we can write cout player it will be not equals to 0, or yes, if x not equals to 0, because we don't want to print element 0. It will be first printed, and if we print like this, it will be started player 0, and we don't want to player 0 to be printed. We write player and number x, element x, and we can put some space, and we can write score and we can now here we will write the score of the player, but we can use we can do it in a new line. Let's write players of element x dot get score. This will be good, and before this while loop ends we will write x plus plus. We need to increment x. Now let me check. Let me check here. Okay, we didn't need incrementation here, and okay, but this means if it will work if x is not equals to 0. When x equals to 0, that means nothing will be printed. That means that our this player, it should be, if we didn't write this if statement, first player that could be written, it could be first player will be a player 0, and we don't want that. We want to this statement to start with player 1 and to end with player 10. and how we gonna do that. But with this we will just have the players from 1 to 9, and this means that first elements of the vector will not be printed. But how can we fix that? But we want that player to be printed, but as a last. And now when this while loop is finished, now we can just we can redefine our x. X can be equals to 10, and we can copy this again. Now we will write it outside this while loop, and we'll just change it a little. Okay, we have, and we forgot here I forgot end line, and I will need end, but before end line, okay, we can use players of element x because we are outside the while loop. But what we will print? As we already know, we don't have we didn't print here first element, zero element, first element of this vector. It is for by default element 0. Now and we can print it here. We will use players, and we will use front element of the vector, and we will write get score. And this means this will be a front element will be players of element 0, of course, and we will have printed player and the number of the player, and we defined x here as a 10, and it will be printed first. These 9 players will be printed, and this player will be player 10, and it will be printed the last. Okay, but we will see how it will gonna work. We will change it if something is not good, and but we need to see how it will gonna work. First we need to call this method. This is method game. Let's call this in our main, and now we will see. Let's try to run this to see if we have any errors. Let's use a build and run. Okay, enter the number. We have it works. Let me see how it will gonna work. Now let's type number 4. Okay, player 4 has won the point, which is good. Now let's type 25. Okay, as you can see, player 5 has won the point, which is good. Let's type 0. Player 10 has won the point. Let's type 50. As you can see, player 10 has won the point, which is perfect. 250. Player 10 has won the point because it ends with 0. Let's type some negative number, minus 26. Okay, player 6 has won the point, minus 338, should be player 8 has won the point. And now let's try to see if it will gonna end minus 1, and as you can see, here is the score, here is the players, and here is the score, and I think this works properly. And also we typed minus 1, and of course player 1 didn't get a point. Now we will just need to separate this a little, and this player 10, we need to move back this score by we need to just delete one space. And okay, let me see to this look. Okay, I will not let me just, I will close this. Okay, score. Okay, let's type it here. We moved back by one field, and we need to separate this a little. Okay, and also here I forgot end line here. And now let's first let's just try again. I think it should be better. Okay, 28, 29, 33 and 53 and 0 and -1. Okay, as you can see here it's good. Now it's separate. I just need to separate these okay, these players a little. I need just here a space, but it works properly. We type number, okay, we type 33 and 53, and player 3 has 2 points, 8 and 9, okay, player 8 and 9 should have 1 point, and we type number 0, and player 10 has won the point, and here it is that point. This is perfect. Just we need to separate here. This entered the number. Okay, here when we displayed, but it can be here in the else statement before this while loop. We can just use a space, and it should be fine. And now we just need to do one more thing. We need to find a winner, and we need to create a function for that. It will not be complicated. A winner will be player with the maximum number of points. Now let's create a function. It will be a void function, void, and we will call it winner. And we will need variables. Okay, we will need integer x, and we will need maximum, and we will need index, because we need to see player with which index has the maximum score. And here we can define x can be 0. We can define it all, initialize it all with 0. We can also use the same thing with index. By default everything will be 0. Now let's create a while loop. While x is lesser than players, static vector players dot size. And let's create a if statement. If maximum is lesser than players of element x dot get score. And now we can define first let's define maximum will be equals to players of element x dot get score, and we can also define our index. Index will be equals to x. This time will be equals to x because okay, but there is just one more problem. Player 0 we need a 10, but element 1 will be player 1 until from 1 to 9 it will be no problem. Just the problem we have with element 0, but we want that element 0 to be 10. And we will just write, for example, if element 0 has the maximum with this code, if element 0 has the maximum score, at the end we will have player 0 has won, but we don't want, we want player 10, and we will just write one control statement, another control statement. If x equals to 0, we will just or we can just write if index, we can write index now, because we define index will be equals to x. If index equals to 0, index will be 10. Pretty much simple. We want to have in the text player 10. If player 10 has the maximum number of points, and we will test it. Okay, and here before this is control statement, this ends first control statement, and this another control statement ends here, and here ends while loop. But before while loop ends, we need to increment this x to prevent endless loop. And now after this, when this while loop is ended, now we just need to write a text. Cout, and we'll write player, and now we will use index. Right, has won the game we'll write with and we will write maximum, because we already defined maximum, points. And let's use end line, and we need to call this function winner. Okay, let me check the code. Okay, here I just want to see if I forgot x++ somewhere. Okay, here we have x++, and here we have while loop, but this while loop doesn't require, we didn't use x. And now let's just try to see if this code will work properly. Let's enter the number. Let's enter 22. Player 2 has 1 point, which is great. Minus 11. Okay, as you can see, player 1 has won the point. Minus 111. Player 1 has won the point. Okay, let's try 50, 60, 27. Okay, 141, 2001. 31 minus 131. Okay, 45. And now let's enter -1, and here it is. We have score of all players. Okay, I will just need a little to separate this. Player 1 7 points, player 2 1.00, player 5 has 1 point, player 7 has 1 point, and player 10 2 points. And player 1 has won the game with 7 points, which is perfect. This means this works perfectly. I will just need this winning statement to separate a little. Just let me see how we I think that shouldn't be a problem. I will just use here slash n, and not m, it will be n, and I think it will work perfectly fine. Let's build and run again. And okay, let's enter the number 46 56 0 23 67 57 37 minus 127 minus 157 88 89 47 3007. As you can see, player 7 won the point. 457 480 58 87 97 and 18, and let's enter minus 1. As you can see, okay, here it is. Player 1 0 point, player player 3 has 1 point, player 6 has 2 points, player 7 has 10 points, player 8 has 3 points, 9 and 10 has 1 point. As you can see, player 7 has won the game with 10 points. This means that this application works like a charm. We could, it would be it would be easier. Okay, maybe you are a little confused with this game. Okay, but we want it here. We could print all of the players with this in this into this while loop. But the problem is, as you can see, I didn't want to help player 0. I wanted to players start with number 1 and to end with number 10. And we printed first element of the vector from 1 to 9, but we didn't print element 0, which is front element of the vector. And we printed that player 0 element of the vector when this while loop is finished. We printed the 0 front element of the vector, and we redefined here x as a 10. We just wanted to here to be written player number 10, and this is the front element of the vector. But we also wanted that player last to be printed, because we have a players from 1 to 10. As you can see, we can try again, but this works perfectly fine. Okay, 65 75 and minus 1. As you can see, player 5 has 3 points, player 4 1 point, last player the rest doesn't have any point. Player 5 has won the game with 3 points. This works perfectly, and I really hope that you understand this, and I really hope that you like this video. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram. You have a link in the description, and I will see you in the next tutorial.